Hey, get in here.
Hey, you!
No, get in our room.
Yeah, you, come here.
Come in.
Come on, get in our room.
Welcome to another episode of Get in Our Room. She's Kristen.
And that's Bobby.
This week we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the LGBTQ plus community. I'm pretty excited for this episode because I've read some really great books and I'm excited to talk about them. And I'm also excited to talk about a couple topics to amplify some voices in the community. So to get started though, Kristen, what did you read this week?
I barely read it all. I didn't do a lot of reading. I started but did not finish The Cheater's Game by C.J. Archer. I'm not even halfway through it. I think I'm 10% of the way in. When I say I did barely any reading, barely any this week. I was busy. It was a busy week for work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. I had to look that one up really quick because I was like, I don't recall that one. So I just Googled it really quick and then I saw the cover and I remembered what was going on.
Yeah, I mean it's a good one. It's super interesting. I just didn't have any time or wherewithal.
Yeah, so I actually probably consumed too much books. Because I got through 2 audiobooks, finished the book that I started talking about last week, and then I just started another book today. So I finished that I finished Falling Hard for the Royal Guard by Megan Clausen.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was the one with the really cool like who it's for, talking about this is for the gingers and the redheads type of thing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
How was that book?
It was good. I gave it a 3.7 out of 5.
Okay.
So it's still good. I finished it. I really enjoyed reading it. It was just missing a little something, and I know what it was missing. I was thinking about it, and this is a single perspective book, so it's only from the female perspective. And we all know how much I love dual perspective. Like even if it's just like short glimpses into the thought process of, the love interest or whatever it is, like that's important to me in rom-coms like this. It was really cute though. So yeah, it ended up working out. And in the end, there's actually like a very cute ode to lesbianism, and you kind of don't expect it so much, but like I called it when right before it was revealed. I was like, oh, I bet you she's gonna be gay, and yep, she was. But anyways, super cute. Like I said, 3.7 out of 5. Would still recommend that people read it. I also listened to Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed, which is a like nemesis to lovers, or rival. I would go with rival to lovers hockey player romance.
Ooh.
Yeah, very good. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. It was my kind of like takeaway from that one is I loved how very masculine they are, and how they really only start to open up to each other because they're 2 very reserved characters. So it's really, it feels like when you're listening to it and reading it, it feels very intimate. And I also think the way that the one character like came out to his family, not how he came out to his family, because I'm not going to give it away, but like how they received the information was like really endearing. So, I've never been in a situation where I have to like come out to my parents. So I would hope that if like I ever had like did like that would be how they would receive it kind of thing. So it was good. It was healthy.
When I was younger, this is probably a terrible story, but I'll share it anyways. I quote unquote came out to my parents to avoid getting in trouble for something.
Wait.
And I
Please explain.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but my dad was like, "Why haven't you been taking care of this?" And I was like, "I think it's because I'm a lesbian." And my dad was like, don't those two things don't matter. They don't connect." Like
I can just see your dad being like, what does that have to do with anything?
he was like, "Nope, that doesn't work."
Uh, that's awesome. Uh, and then the other book is actually the one I'm going to talk about in a little bit. I want to talk about that one way more in depth because there's a lot to unpack with that book. It's called
Yeah, I think
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was looking at our show notes, and I think this is gonna be kind of a heavy show,
Yeah,
kind of a heavy week.
I mean the topic is heavy and with next month being, Pride Month and all the things that are happening in the world right now that are very negative, um I think it's really important to highlight some of these things and some of these themes and talk about them in a positive way. So that actually leads me into my next comment. Um, a really good resource for books that are part of the community is a blog called readsrainbow.com. So READS rainbow.com. And their says Reads Rainbow is a blog dedicated to LGBT media. Here you will find reviews, recs, and info about upcoming LGBT content, be it books, movies, TV shows, or music. And it is run
You
by,
know,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's super fantastic. Sorry to interrupt you,
No, you're good.
because previous to this year, I haven't really read any romance or smut novels, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I read the Black Dagger Brotherhood way back when,
So
but other
good.
than that, like I haven't read a lot
Mm-hmm.
until this year, and I think I've read about 30. And I was literally just starting to be like, they're all the same characters, they're all the same descriptions of characters. They're all 55-year-old men who have just entered into their prime and 23-year-old women who are already out of their prime and too old for the market, and you're like, all right, the trope is a little worn down. So it'd be nice to have, different different romances and so
Yeah.
to have an entire resource.
So the Reads Rainbow is run by Charlotte, and you can find her at Points of Hopes and Anna at Here's the Pencil. But on their website, they have January to June 2023 book releases of books that are coming out, and they have everything from contemporary to fantasy, science fiction, historical, mystery thriller, paranormal horror, poetry, nonfiction. They have all of these subcategories, and then they have YA books. They have books with trans and non-binary protagonists. I mean, this is such a good resource, and there's so many books coming out in June, which I think is amazing because it is Pride Month, and I just am super pleased. So this is a resource that I've actually looked at a few times, and I keep coming back to. So I wanted to give them a shout out because I think they do a wonderful job at supporting the community, helping be a positive voice in the community. And their blog is just a great resource.
That's fantastic. Just one more resource to royally fuck up my TBR. I mean, shake it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, ooh, fantasy, like what's going on there? Like, I got a little lost in there when I was building the show notes earlier this morning because I woke up pretty early and I like went down this whole rabbit hole and then I was like bouncing between their site and the individual books and the authors and everything, just looking at everything and it's very good. So highly recommend. Readsrainbow.com.
That's fantastic. Um, so speaking of new books out, there is, and I hope I'm pronouncing their names right, Gottmik and Gigi Gorgeous. They have a new book out. It's called The Tea Guide, and it's about the trans experience. Um, in an interview, they talked about what really caught my attention was them talking about doctors don't really know about the trans experience because they're just kind of learning from their patients as they go and whatever kind of limited experience their patients are sharing with them. Um, so they wrote this book, Gigi Gorgeous, and Gottmik is AKA Cade Gottlieb. I
Yeah,
hope I'm
he's a
saying that right.
transgender. He's from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, he is.
And
And so they wrote this one. Sorry, go ahead.
no, Gigi Gorgeous. Have you heard of her before you came across this topic?
No, I just came across the book. I just like their distrust of doctors is what really resonated with me.
We're gonna come back to that, but I have been following Gigi Gorgeous since like 2016 on
Oh,
Instagram.
really?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Gigi. Yes. She is beautiful and I think when you told me about this and then I got on the show notes this morning, I was like, no shit, it's by Gigi. Like I'm definite like that, like I've been a fan for so long. I'm a shitty fan of a lot of things that I'm a fan of. So I had no idea that she was like coming out with a book or anything like that. But to see that she did, like I am very interested in understanding more. So you were saying that um they they wrote this book because doctors don't understand the experience.
So it's the idea that not really anybody like it's not that nobody understands it, but the idea that not everybody has that community around them or that best friend that they can talk to. I mean, like for you and I think about how much we learn and share from our experiences back and
Yep.
forth. And so this book was designed to be a best friend experience, sharing
Oh,
experiences, sharing ideas. So yeah, kind of like
there's
how you would talk with your best friend.
there's so much to be said for that because I'd say this to my younger siblings all of the time when they like call me and are either asking questions or just like having a conversation with me. There's so much for being like the feeling of not being alone in the world. Like
Absolutely. I 100%, yeah.
you're having all these emotions, you're thinking all of these thoughts and like just to have a space to like and that's why reading can be so beautiful is because you can have all these thoughts and these feelings and there's millions and millions and millions of books that you can read and it's somebody's been through that, somebody's experienced that, somebody's gone through those same things and not feeling alone in the world solidifies that you're not being irrational, you're not crazy, you're not all these things that society might call you for this emotion or this feeling like and it's validating and it's beautiful.
Yep. I totally agree. Um, and sometimes to like it always looks like other people are handling something so much better than you. And so, and through books, right? We get to see that internal dialogue of them falling apart
Yeah.
while keeping that game face on and being like, "Okay, so everybody is in fact faking it."
Yes.
Which is, another great reason to read is getting inside other people's heads. And so I think this book will be, a really nice experience, that best friend experience where you're not talking in medical terms and you're not talking through the media, through politics, just,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that'll be really great.
Yeah. It's gonna be something I'm not someone who's gonna ever transition, but I think reading it could led me to be a better person if I ever come across a friend or anybody who is having those experiences, right? Not that I could understand them on the same level, but at least I could appreciate where they're coming from. And if they trust me with having a conversation about their experience, you know, and if they've never heard of this book, like I could recommend this book. Like I think that, you know, like you said, not feeling alone in the world is good.
Yeah. Alrighty, I've been dying to hear about your book this week, your Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Yeah, so I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Is that how you think that's said?
Let me double. Casey McQuiston,
Yeah, that's
McQuiston, McQuiston.
McQuiston. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Sorry, Casey, if I'm wrong. Um,
I guess as long as you're just staying consistent, right?
yeah, that's fair. So this book is about Alex and Henry. So Alex is the son of the first woman president of the United States, and she is a Democrat from Austin, Texas. So right there in that sentence alone is a lot to unpack. So if you're familiar with laws in the state of Texas, um,
I am not.
they're not very friendly to women's rights. They are not very liberal. Um, so having the first female president coming from Texas is kind of a lot right there. Also I listened to this on audiobook on Hoopla, and the voice actor who did her, because she had a Texas twang accent that she didn't hide. So anytime the Madam President talked, it was the best. Um, Especially when it was just like her and her kids and she was talking to her kids, because she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you in this Texas twang? And I was like, hell yeah. um but this book takes place during the second term race for the 2020 US presidency. Alex is also, his name is Alex Diaz, and he is actually a Mexican American. Mom is white, dad is of Mexican descent. Um, I believe the dad's family, the Diaz family, comes from like Mexico City, if I'm remembering that correct. Um, and he doesn't have friends because he's incredibly smart and sarcastic, but he's also like still the guy that everyone likes because he wants to be the youngest politician. He wants to be the youngest person in Congress. So his goal is he's just like super smart. He's 21 and turns 22 during this book. So he's like really involved in politics and all of this stuff. And then you have Henry, who is the second Prince of England. So we
Wow.
we know Prince Henry, right? And we know Prince Philip. Those are real world names, right? So Prince Henry is not described as a handsome redhead. But the funny thing is his dad is a movie star, which is funny because there's all those like whispers that Henry is actually the son, like the real Prince Henry is like the son of some actor. I don't know if you were aware of that at all, Kristen.
I was not. I barely keep up with American politics, so I keep up with British politics even less.
Yeah, I'm a big Princess Diana fan and the conspiracies around her. So that's how I know. Um,
Ah, okay.
yeah. So, and then, he has to Henry has to maintain these appearances for the crown. and he struggles with bouts of depression and loneliness due to having to hide who he is, and who he is a gay man. A gay young man, because he's like 1 year older. So he's 22 and turns 23 during this book.
Oh, wow.
So they're actually rivals in the beginning who do not get along. And Philip is getting married. So, the first family of the US goes to Philip's wedding. And Alex and Henry end up getting in this small little tussle, which knocks over the $70,000 wedding cake. And that all these tabloids, because we know from the actual Prince Henry, the real Prince Henry exodus from the royal family. I don't know if that's the right terminology there. How him and his wife left and they moved to Canada or LA. I don't know where they're at anymore. But tabloids are a huge problem in England when it comes to the royal family, right? And so the tabloids went crazy with, there's this huge scuffle and it looks bad for relations for the presidential race against his mom. So the PR team basically puts together this plan to make them look like friends, like fake. They're like, fake it till you freaking make it, both of you, because we both have something to gain out of this, coming across as you're actually friends, and that you didn't actually, accidentally cut the prince's face with your, champagne glass or whatever it was. Like, it was all an accident and a misunderstanding kind of thing. So they're rivals that have this forced proximity, and it's quite hilarious.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Are you telling me that politics is just like a dog and pony show? Is that what you're getting at here?
100%. Yep. Shocker. So there's this whole like fake friendship thing, and it ends up leading to them realizing that they have more in common, that they're both pretty isolated and that they don't have a lot of friends or outlets to talk to people, and they actually have a lot of shared emotions and experiences, being these two people who are in, these two young men who are in the face of everything, and they're constantly watched. There's constantly paparazzi or somebody out to get them or whatever it is. So they end up actually becoming friends, and some of that leads to more, and I'm gonna leave the rest of it there because I really want people to read this book. And everything that I've said so far,
we're all gonna pretend like we don't know what more means.
Right. But when I tell you, the writing is so amazing and beautifully poetic. Like when I was listening to this, I was like constantly like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Like the things that they say to each other. And then there's a bunch of like historical references too, to literature, politics, and then just general American and English history. And as someone who loves history, I learned so many facts during this book. Like the one time that Texas ended up voting Democratic because historically they're a red state. Like when they first ever went blue, the one and only time they went blue, and like all of this other like little nuggets of knowledge. And then it also points out a lot of themes that actually occurred for America and England in regards to their leadership. So there's email servers involved. We all know about the Clinton email server thing. Maybe we don't, but there was scandalous email server situation. Tabloids, again.
So it's a very, very heavy political book. Like they touch on all of
it is
real politics.
It is. And I found the way that it was done beautiful, entertaining, and eye-opening. Because I really felt for the experiences that these two characters had, because you truly fall in love with both these guys. You're just like, you want them to be your best friends. They're so intelligent and kind, and what ends up happening to them literally made me so fucking mad. So there's also the American and Mexican relationships in regard to immigration. Women being in power, holding presidency over the United States, and then even like having spies in the opponent's election camp. And then of course the big ticket item is two very present young leaders in the world being gay. And I think it's just super, super. It like, if you read this book and you don't accept that all of these things could be possible and accept them and be happy with them, you might not be a good person. Like that's a pretty.
No, I think the big thing is if you don't believe any of this stuff could happen or already has happened and was swept under the rug, you just have your head in the sand. Like
Yes.
people act like all this stuff is brand new. Pff, heck no, man.
No.
This stuff is old. A tale as old as time, right?
Yes. And I'm just like, I wanted this book to be real life. Like when I finished it, I was like, I wish this would have happened because like there was also marches on capitals and in states and on the on DC for like when some of this stuff ended up, coming out, like all these people coming together in support. And I'm just like, yeah, I would want to be one of those people to march. Having been alive during like the women's marches and stuff like that, like yeah, it moves you to want to be involved even in supporting these communities even more. So I just found it extremely fascinating. And I found out when I was doing research that Amazon Prime is making it into a movie and it's being released on August 11th.
They're gonna fuck that up.
But I'm so excited for it anyways, because look at this. Come on, would you load?
Did they already pick a cast?
Yes.
Yeah, they have to.
This is the cover photo for it. I adore this image. So what it is it's two men sitting on a couch with their legs crossed, but their legs are crossing each other's. And one has an American
swords.
Yeah. One has American flag socks and the other one has the English flag, and it is awesome. And then the cast, Nicholas,
can you make it bigger?
Gasoline. Yeah, I was gonna click on each individual person. Nicholas.
Is that the British guy?
Yeah, he's gonna play Prince Henry.
I don't know him.
I don't know him either, but he plays in. Let's go to.
He
his
looks
photos.
British enough. I'll accept it.
Yeah, he plays in movies and things. Guys, I suck. I don't know. But but like when I saw he was playing it, I was like, okay, I can get on board with him as that character, as the Henry. And then I don't even know how to say his name. Nicholas Gelzidine. Oof, guys. Why aren't you going back further? Go back.
I don't know, man. That looks like one of those hockey player names where not all of the letters are important, but you don't know which ones matter.
So he played in Cinderella, Handsome Devils, Purple Hearts. Those are like his most recent works. Bottoms. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And then Taylor Perez is going to play Alex, which I also support when I was like, when I saw this, I was like, yeah, that's basically exactly what he looked like in my head when I was reading
Yeah,
this.
I don't know who any of these guys are.
I don't know either. He plays in, look at that little smile he's got going on. Um he plays in, oh, I looked this up earlier. I don't trust my brain though, you guys, so we're gonna go back. Whoops, too far, too far. He played in The Kissing Booth, which is,
I haven't heard of that one
I
either.
haven't seen it. I don't know. I have heard of it though. But yeah, so Red, White, and Royal Blue is coming out on Prime August 11th, and I am actually looking forward to it. I want to watch it. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is I was on the author's like about page on Amazon, Casey
Hmm.
McQuiston. I just want to read her about the author because I friggin' loved it. So Casey McQuiston is a New York Times bestselling author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, as well as a pie enthusiast. She writes book about smart people with bad manners falling in love, which is true. Born and raised in southern Louisiana, she now lives in New York City with her poodle Mix and her personal assistant Pepper. Do you get it?
No.
No,
Was it an Iron Man reference?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I'm like, I hope it is. Anyways, yeah, so I highly encourage, like, if you have not read Red, White, and Royal Blue, to read it because I found it so beautiful for so many different reasons.
Cool, man. That sounds super exciting. I might wait for the movie. I'll probably skip it. I'm not really into the politics.
Yeah, but there's so much more than that. But I know
I
how
know, but
our
sometimes it
TBRs,
ruins it.
yeah, that's true. But I know how crazy our TBRs are, so I'm not even gonna be like disappointed. And if you don't read it, but like I still think like you should.
Mine is a little heavier than that. It's actually fairly heavy. Um, the book I read this week, so I lied. I read more than one book this week. Um, I read If You Could Be Mine by Sara Farizan. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Sarah. But this is a book about a lesbian couple, or a couple that wants to be a lesbian couple, living in Tehran, which is the capital of Iran. So, if we know anything about Iran, it is completely illegal to be gay or lesbian, and the penalty is death, right? They hang them or stone them to
Hmm.
death. So they've been best friends since they were super little, and they know that they're in love, but they also don't want to die. So it's a super short book. It was only like 200 pages. And I thought that it was possibly written in another language and then translated to English because it was a very basic read.
Okay.
Um, as if maybe it's for a younger group, possibly. But probably not because there's some really heavy stuff. Heavy. Uh,
I was I was
oh,
at
what's the word I'm looking for? Heavy themes.
Yeah,
Themes is the word I'm looking for.
I was just reading an article this morning though about young adult writing doing just this, touching on these
Getting more
heavy
basic.
themes
Oh,
and shedding light on them, but still being part of like the YA group. So this is, I think, something that we're gonna see more of. is these
Yeah.
heavy themes written about in a way that could be consumed by young adults.
The downside with this one is that it has a lot of heavy themes that are very interesting themes that could have gone further into like more exploration around them.
Mm.
So, for example, in Tehran and Iran, um, it is illegal to be gay, but it is not illegal to be transgender. And because it is not mentioned in the Quran about being transgender, being or feeling or thinking or being born in the wrong body and then is considered a mental illness. And so the government will subsidize for transgender surgeries.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And so Iran actually does the most transgender surgeries, gender confirmation surgeries in the world.
Wow. I had no idea.
The majority of Europeans fly to Iran for gender confirmation surgeries.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah. Now, don't mistake all of that information for thinking that a transgender individual's life is still going to be easy
Oh,
in
hell.
Iran.
Yeah, no.
They're still I don't want to go so far as to say second class citizens because well I guess if they become women they become second class citizens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this book talks about the idea that if these two girls wanted to be together, one of them would have to get transgender surgery and then they'd be able to live together. But one of them would be sacrificing like her body and her identity. And so
Oh
the
my
question
God.
is like which way do you sacrifice your identity? Do you just pretend to be straight or do you physically and permanently alter your body?
Oh my God. That is heavy.
Um So those are some really interesting things, and this book barely touches on them. Barely doesn't really dive into, like that theme in and of itself could be chapters long of that internal
Yeah.
dialogue of that issue, and it's just kind of like, oh, that's a possibility. Okay. Um, and I think it's kind of a disservice, even if it's for young children or young adults, not young children, young adults. Even if this was written for young adults, I think that's kind of a disservice to touch so lightly on these really heavy themes. Um, you're either one, implying that young adults can't handle the thought process of diving deeper into it, and you're just not really giving them the opportunity to think critically and dive into these heavy themes when you present them and then just gloss over them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and this was a super short review on this book. The book was super short. The writing was super basic. The themes were super interesting, and I wanted so much more from them. But overall, they just kind of skirted around a lot of issues. They skirted around a lot of topics, and it honestly left a lot to be desired. Almost a very boring read. But I think this is the author's first book.
Okay.
So a lot to be forgiven there. So
Yeah.
hopefully in a couple years after a couple books she'll come back and maybe do this one again.
Expand on these topics. That would be great.
Do this with a little more fervor because it could be super interesting. Those could be, big heavy topics of what kind of lie do you want to live? And such an interesting part of the world. Actually, there was one super interesting scene in the book. So in Iran, men are not allowed to touch women that they're not related to or married to.
Right.
So two women get into a fight in a public place, but the male bouncers can't touch them to break up the fight.
Oh, wow.
So they're trying to like put their bodies between them. They're like trying not, they have their hands like behind their back, and the guys have their hands
Right.
behind their own backs, and they're trying to like kind of like move their bodies in between these women without touching them.
Oh my God. Crazy.
So And that's another thing that there's a lot of cultural things from Iran that
Have
I
you?
would have liked to have touched on further
Yeah.
or expanded on. I think that particular scene again was kind of downplayed either because it was just kind of assumed that you knew that they couldn't really touch them, or they
Right.
didn't understand the humor or which direction you could take it to really add on to that scene.
Have you seen the photos of Iran before the revolution happened, like back in the 70s? Like
Not
of
Iran, but I've seen a lot of Afghanistan
y-
before the Americans got there.
yeah, so like just bright, beautiful colors, women in skirts and bikinis and like just, not fully covered and stuff like that. Some chose to be, right? Like there's always people that I'm sure did, but like it's just fascinating to me that this is where they're at today. And
Yeah.
I think it's an ode to the rest of the world to how easy it is to go back, potentially go backwards, right? Like, you make all this progress and it's easy to go backwards. And I actually think that's something we're seeing right now in America with all these laws and restrictions on the transgender community and just the LGBTQ community in general, right? So it's nerve-wracking because, we could learn from their example and we're not.
Yeah. I think yeah, it's all very I think the hard part is all of the issues stem from a lot of the media in America
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of false reporting on stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the media will always choose clickbait and clever titles over accurate reporting of what's truly going on. And they will spend more time getting people riled up about stuff than, you know, honesty and boring truth doesn't get as many clicks as, like, you know, cute
Yep.
nicknames and this and that, and only reading half of what's going on and then reporting on it fervently. And you're like, cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody's all riled up for no reason.
Yeah. I have a theory, but it's a personal theory because
Okay, we'll take it offline.
yeah, yeah, probably good to take it offline, but I'd like to share it because I think it's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'm ready to be that vulnerable here. So so
Right. No, I totally understand. Yeah.
but
Because
yeah,
these are big topics, and
they're
for us
huge.
personally, although we may support them, we're not technically in the community and we
Yeah.
don't actually feel the ramifications. So it's not really
Exactly. It's not I don't
our
think it's our
place.
place. And that's why I wanted to use this
Like,
episode to amplify voices of people who are in the community and writing literature to
mhm.
support the community and just doing all these good things, right? Because as we get into next month, we're going to be seeing rainbows everywhere, all these corporations. And it's another reason why we actually chose not to do this episode in the month of June, because we don't
Because we're a
want
little bit better than everybody else.
we're trying to approach the topic in a way to show that we're allies, but we don't want to take away from the voices of those who live in the community, and this is their everyday life, these are their everyday struggles, and we don't want to monetize on other people's hardships or what they go through or their experiences, and we're not monetized anyways, so there's that. But we do this because we care, and this is something we enjoy discussing and highlighting, right? Every week. But I think there's something to be
And
said.
I think there's something to be said for finding books that's outside, especially in romance, right?
Mm-hmm.
To find books that are outside of that stereotypical boring ass age gap trope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe not all of them are age gap, but I think specifically in the romance community, and really all of them, right? Every single female character is tall and slender with such long legs,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, they're all. So it's fun to find, even if different body types, different love interests, different identifications. All of that is so needed in the book
Mm-hmm.
world,
It is.
just to make it more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
New perspectives,
Yep.
I think.
I agree 100%. One of my favorite reads this year was a lesbian couple, but not only was one of the character, not only was she the one character, technically she was, I think, bisexual, but she was also demisexual, so she needed like a real true emotions there to be fully attracted, like actual like connection and trust. And um I think there's something to be said with that too, because like we're bombarded with images of these, daddies or zaddies on like Instagram and like all these mommies, all these things, but like having a personal connection with somebody and having trust and true intimacy outside of physical contact is something super underrated in today's society. And the more and more books that I read, like going back to the heated rivalry, two really masculine men that have to keep up appearances that they hate each other, get into these very intimate conversations. And there's a lot to be said for that, because there is a lack of intimacy between so many couples that I see, or I have a window into their relationship, I should say, that discuss things with me, and it's like, you know, outside of a bedroom or a closed door, there's nothing there, and it's so vital to have intellectual intimacy with the person you're choosing to partner with life. And I think that's another thing that is highlighted actually very well in books that are written for the LGBT community, right? Because there's so much to unpack there, and they truly do it, and they do a very good job of it.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
So, if you like this episode, please provide us a feedback. If you have somebody that you want to share with us who's part of the community, we would love to know their Instagram, know if they wrote a book, whatever it might be. I'm constantly reading, and I actually will pick up a book about a gay male couple or a lesbian couple or like a pansexuality like way faster than I will a traditional romance these days. So I am all ears, and we'd love to hear if there's somebody or a resource in the community also, because we want to make sure to continue to have it be present on our social media to be an advocate, to support, and to amplify those voices of the community. So don't hesitate to let us know anything that you find or you know of.
Yes, and just to follow up with Bobby, even if you don't like the show, feel free to leave us some feedback.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, we're gonna laugh at it, but
Constructive
it's your
criticism is really
prerogative.
good, right?
That's actually absolutely not how I'm gonna take it.
Yes. So,
But hey, man, it's your prerogative to write whatever you want in the comment section.
true. Next week's episode either might not exist or might be delayed. We haven't figured it out because next week is Memorial Day, and there's a likelihood that I'm going out of town, so we're not so sure if we're going to be able to film it. But we have some exciting things coming on down the line. We're going to have our first guest on the show here pretty quickly. Um, so if even if we're taking a break for a week, be sure to come back the next week because we're going to have some authors and we're going to be discussing some new book releases, and doing some interviews that we're both very, very excited about.
Yes.
So thanks for listening to the show this week. And if we don't see you next week, be sure to come back for our guests the following week.